Hey, Inside Crypto people, welcome back to another Bitcoin Week where we talk about Bitcoin, crypto, and everything in between. This is another week. It is boiling hot here in Taiwan. I have not turned on the AC because it's still a little bit too early for that. Without further ado, let's get into the stories. In terms of news, the Fed meeting looms. Here are the rate cut odds. Gold may have signaled the end of Bitcoin rally, according to analyst Benjamin Cowen. Here's what he means. The Bitcoin ETFs are live in Hong Kong. We'll talk about those. BNY Mellon's role in cryptocurrency and banking. And the last story for today is Japan-based Akita Doc Society adopts blockchain to combat forgery. All these stories and more on today's show. Lots going on, so stay tuned. Don't miss a step. And let's jump into today's prices. All right, as I said in the intro, Bitcoin currently at $63,451.07, up 1.3%. Bitcoin hasn't done too much in the last week or so. It's probably been hovering around there. It dropped to about under $60,000 over the weekend, again, because of more Middle East problems. It's picked up again with somewhat good news regarding the Hong Kong Bitcoin Spot ETFs and Ether Spot ETFs. We can talk about those in a little bit, but the TLDR is basically they haven't done too much, as you'll see in the trading chart and the look just below. Yeah, Bitcoin's currently been in like a holding pattern, and I guess we're waiting for rate cuts. We're waiting some sort of positive global macroeconomic news. I've seen a lot of good reasons as I've edited the analyst call from last week for 21 shares. Our analyst made a lot of good points, right? That there's a lot of institutional and retail and interest into Bitcoin at the moment. And these people who are the ones who, when they see big macroeconomic events, they were like, yep, oh, this is bad news. I need to sell my Bitcoin, or it's tax season. I need to sell my Bitcoin. So there's a lot of downward pressure. There's a lot of negative sentiment, not just about Bitcoin, but about global macroeconomics as a whole. So that's the reason you decide what you want to do with that. So today's first story by Ed Carson, the Fed meeting looms. Here are the rate cut odds. The latest Fed meeting takes place on April 30th, May 1st. So sometime today, tomorrow, depending what region you live in. A few months ago, investors were betting that a major easing cycle would be well underway by this time. Now markets see virtually no chance of a Fed rate cut on Wednesday, with the first rate cut not coming until September and possibly not at all. So this sentiment was echoed by one of our research analysts on 21 Shares. Please check out the YouTube channel, 𝕋𝕚𝕞𝕖, where he basically said this high interest rate environment might continue in 2024 just because inflation in the States came out still relatively hot. I saw another headline yesterday or today in the morning when I woke up where people were saying, or the news was stating, that inflation is this high because of the wealthy Americans are still buying stuff and thereby driving up prices and thereby inflation. Whether you believe that or not is something for you to decide. I still think, yeah, I don't even think it's wealthy Americans. I think people are still buying stuff. People are still in a very much of mindset of, given what's happening in the world, climate change, etc. We've seen people, right? I've seen stories in the media about Gen Z people earning good money at the moment, right? Or in their second or third jobs. We're like, yeah, the world's not going to be around when I'm 60, so I'm going to buy that expensive MacBook M4 or that $10,000 gaming computer, or take that expensive vacation to Bhutan, right, in Asia. And people just spending money like that without really concern about savings and that sort of stuff. I'd highly suggest you check out this article. This is definitely much more of a granular look. And that's just my opinion. As always, please do your research. Today's next story is really interesting. Gold may have signaled the end of Bitcoin rally, according to analyst Benjamin Cowen. Here's what he means. Here's a quote from him. At least so far, you can see that the breakout of gold in 2019 marked the top locally for Bitcoin. Bitcoin did go higher, obviously, a year later. But even this year, you can see the gold broke out right when Bitcoin USD found the local top in March. So that's one thing. If gold continues to do well, the implication of that could be that Bitcoin is actually going to fall after the consolidation below the 8-week moving average, rather than get a pop-up like last year. So you can see the chart in front of you. Again, this is technical analysis stuff. Whether you're a fan of it, whether you believe it, is up to you. It makes an interesting point as well. Cohen goes on to say that the breakdown of Ethereum against BTC ETH has also correlated with Bitcoin tops, which he notes has already potentially begun. The other thing that has already happened is that the ETH BTC breakdown. So if you look at the breakdown of ETH BTC, you can see that the last cycle, once it starts to break down, that marked the top by BTC USD before a larger correction. And you're looking at something similar this year. So A lot of technical analysis is looking at history, what has happened in the past, looking at patterns. I think we've definitely gone into unmarked or unpatternable territory where who knows what Bitcoin is going to do. Right? We've had the halving almost 10 days ago. People are like, oh my God, Bitcoin's going to shoot to $100,000. It's at $63,000, as we saw earlier in today's show. There's still so much going on, so many unknowns, so many issues with what's going on in the world. As I've told you guys in previous episodes, I'm still overall very positive about where Bitcoin is going to go. I still think it's going to be a few weeks or a few months or maybe even more than a year until we get like a new high above $80,000, something along that line. So today's next story is Bitcoin Spot ETFs launched in Hong Kong, right? And this is the simplified Chinese website of some stock tracker. I spent a long time looking for this information, let me tell you. I was looking for something in Hong Kong, but I could not find it at all, which is extremely strange. And I only found this simplified Chinese stock trading website. So this is the 𝕋𝕬𝕖 Bitcoin Spot ETF, right? If you look at the name over there above the green numbers, you can see 𝕋𝕬𝕖 and then 𝕂𝕂, which is Chinese for Bitcoin. This looks very interesting, right? We can see it's up 2.5%, doing a little bit better than what Bitcoin is doing at the moment. But overall speaking, we haven't seen too much volume in terms of trading. And that being said, and we had some really bullish indicators for some of the fund managers, the asset managers in Hong Kong. We're like, we're going to beat the Americans on the first day. I don't think that has happened so far. I have to remind everybody as well, right? This was seen as a very positive sign because China's asset management market is something like at $1.2 trillion, which is a lot of money, of course. But then a lot of people reminded everyone, Chinese people cannot trade this, right? That being said, as someone who's lived in Asia, who's been to China, who's knows a lot of people in this side of the world, there are people who do have the ability to go to Hong Kong, and there are Chinese people who can buy Bitcoin Spot ETFs, and maybe they're doing that, maybe they're not. I know Taiwanese people here obviously have the option to just buy Bitcoin on their own here in Taiwan, right? So I know a few big holders of Bitcoin with 6 figures of digits of Bitcoin here in Taiwan. And there's also the option here in Taiwan, right? We have the option of eToro, and you can buy Bitcoin Spot ETFs, IBIT, Fidelity, ARKB from eToro. So why would you buy it from Hong Kong? That being said, I don't believe this will do as well as some of the asset managers have said it will do, just because here in Taiwan anyway, there's been a lot of bad news associated with crypto, a lot of scams, a lot of schemes, a lot of warnings on messaging apps. So, hey, be careful, don't get scammed if somebody asks you for USDC or USDT or send them some Bitcoin or something like that. You could lose your money, etc., etc., etc. So there's definitely something. Let's see how this does. Right, this is only the first day, and this is just one of the Bitcoin Spot ETFs. Maybe the other ones are doing even better. Let's see what the perception is. I think the first day is always going to be a bit muted in Hong Kong anyway, just because of the mainland's stance towards Bitcoin. It's interesting. It's definitely good news. We'll have to see what the regular volumes are going to be a week from now, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. Okay, and let's move on to today's next story. BNY Mellon's role in cryptocurrency and banking. The TLDR, 3 takeaways regarding BNY Mellon cryptocurrency. BNY Mellon's Bitcoin ETF investments signals a new era in banking. Ironically, BNY Mellon's Bitcoin disclosure happened the day IBIT inflow streak of 71 days stopped. BNY Mellon's Bitcoin ETF engagement may influence global finance rules. So BNY Mellon is one of the oldest banks in the States, if I'm not mistaken. And this happened when basically there was like a 90-day asset manager agreement or withholding. I forgot the terminology. I apologize for that. Again, this was on the 21 Shares Research Call where they talked about this, that now asset managers can start to consider participating in the Bitcoin Spot ETFs in the US for US asset managers or US banks and financial institutions. So this is good, right? This gives people an option, and then especially in some areas of the US where they're like, yes, I want to participate in this. I want this in my 401k, or I want this in my Roth IRA. Please do this, right? And for some institutions, this might be a good way to improve their balance sheets because, again, they get to charge a fee for holding Bitcoin or helping customers buy Bitcoin or holding their own Bitcoin. Or maybe a bank's role is to make money for its shareholders. If BNY Mellon is doing this, maybe we could see other potential banks doing this. I still don't think we're going to get a JP Morgan yet, despite them having something to do with the Bitcoin Spot ETF. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, this is a good positive sign for Bitcoin, and hopefully it continues. All right, the last happy story for today is the Akita Inu Preservation Society, a Japan-based dog society, has embraced blockchain technology to issue digital pedigree certificates for the prized Akita dog breed in an effort to combat forgery and streamline administrative processes. According to a report from Japan Today, the initiative is developed in collaboration with a local IT firm called Meta Akita Inc. and US-based Heirloom Inc. The society aims to enhance authenticity and convenience for dog owners. In a commentary to the media outlet, a spokesperson for the Odate-based dog society said the decision to utilize blockchain came after its overseas membership increased from about 300 people in 2022 to around 500 in 2023, coupled with the rapid expansion reports of forged pedigree documents in China prompted the adoption of blockchain. So this is not new. If you're a blockchain person, one of the things blockchain has been used for, has been touted as a use for, is the idea to verify something. We can think about VeChain for supply chain verification and tracking. You can think about NFTs, right? NFTs say this is authentic because you can see it on the blockchain that I bought this NFT from this person, and this is the smart contract that it came from. And then for some of you might be like, what is the deal with this? This sounds like 500 members. Why would you want to use blockchain? Dogs and pets are supremely important in Asia these days. I saw a documentary 2 days ago or a few days ago where loads of young people, I'm 41, and people younger than me were like, yeah, I don't have kids because dogs are far cheaper, far more worth it. You're not paying for all the extra schooling that happens in Asia with a dog. You're paying for vet bills, sure. You're paying for food, sure. You're paying for an apartment where dogs are allowed to live in, sure. But again, dogs are just definitely cheaper than children. And lots of young people said, yes, this is much better. I'm going to do this. And so people really care about dogs. And in the previous apartment building, our first floor had a pet store right next to it. And they made good money selling cat climbing things and dog kennels and food and special treats and gear. Loads of people buy special gear for the dogs. People who make $1,000 a month salary-wise or $2,000 a month, they'll spend $500 on their pet in terms of gear and dog wear and food and treats and medical treatment, that sort of stuff. This makes sense, right? And again, buying a real authentic breed, right? There's a kind of a breed of dog which looks like a teddy bear dog, I guess is the English. I can't remember what the actual English word is, but those are super popular these days. And again, in the south of Taiwan, we're so influenced, right, by Japan. So a lot of Japanese dog breeds are really popular here. And people really care about getting a purebred dog, and people will spend 2-3 months' salary on a dog here. So again, this makes total sense. I think this will continue. I think this will be something that's totally implemented, not just in Japan, but lots of countries in Asia, just because people care about authenticity when it comes to their pets. All right, guys, that is it for today. Thanks for tuning into the last episode of April of Bitcoin Weekly. I hope you enjoyed it. Next week, we will not have a Bitcoin Weekly because we'll be interviewing PYOR. They've developed a tool called X-Ray, which is very similar to June Analytics and Flipside. It's another tool for you to analyze the blockchain and understand what is happening behind the scenes, what are the revenue when it comes to protocols. If you're interested in that, as we interviewed Flipside's, one of Flipside's co-founders, and he was really fun to talk to, really interesting. Check out that interview. And stay tuned for next week. We're going to interview Akash Athawasia. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name right. He's the research lead at PYOR and one of the developers of X-Ray. It's going to be really fun, really interesting. And stay tuned for next week, and we'll talk to you guys then. Bye.